Hey, hello. So now we're on chapter 7, and let's talk a little bit about that. Chapter 7 starts talking about our court systems, and that's very important. Let me pull up my other listing I have over here. Here we go. Thank you. And also, where you clicked on this link, there's also a note saying click on this during the lecture. Let me tell you about that once we get there, but we're almost there, and so I'll have you click on that. And that talks about specifically the Texas court systems on the criminal level. Okay? So remember, we're only going to talk in this class, since it's Introduction to Criminal Justice, about criminal courts. But there's a whole array of civil courts, and a lot more civil courts than there are criminal courts, both in Texas and throughout the nation. Okay. Looking on page 99 is how we determine where our courts are, and it's based on what's called jurisdiction. And jurisdiction is both geographic location, the physical location, where the crime committed, and the subject matter of the crime, what type of crime it is. Okay? So, if a crime occurred in Houston, Texas, then the trial for that crime will occur in Houston, Texas. If a crime occurs in New Orleans, then the trial will occur in New Orleans. Okay? Now, there are obvious exceptions that you hear about this once in a while on the news, where they'll change the location of a trial because of a lot of publicity. But that's very, very rare. Okay? But generally, where the crime is committed, that's where the trial will be. So, generally, you have the victim and the witnesses nearby too. But let's say that you went to San Antonio and someone broke into your car and stole a bunch of stuff. You called the police, they took a report, and they were able actually to find the bad guy that broke into your car. You would then, if there was going to be a trial, you would then have to go to San Antonio to testify. Okay? Which you may say, I've got class today, I can't go. Well, if you don't show up, then that person's going to go free because you're the main person that testifies. Okay? So that's a little bit of quirkiness as to if people are from out of town, that they still have to go to that location where the crime was committed in most cases. There are some other exceptions, but we're not going to get into all that stuff. Okay? So the geographic location is very important. Now, when we start talking about Texas courts, we're going to remember those two concepts: geographic location, and then the next concept is the subject matter. What type of crime was committed? Was it a murder, which is a first-degree felony? Was it breaking into your car, which can be just a misdemeanor or a low-level felony? Was it driving while intoxicated, which is a misdemeanor for first offense? Was it minor in possession of alcohol? Again, something I know that you don't have any knowledge about. Then that's going to be even a lower level crime, Class C misdemeanor, pay the fine. Okay? So that's subject matter. Also on this page, on 199, talks about federal versus state jurisdiction. What type of crime is it? A federal crime doesn't mean it's that much more severe or serious or punishable. State crimes are much stricter than a lot of federal crimes. But a lot of people think, oh, it's a federal crime. Just means it's going to federal court. That's all it means. Federal crimes generally involve crimes that are committed on federal property. Like if you go to the federal courthouse and spray paint the wall, that's a federal crime. It's the same if you went and spray painted on a building downtown, that would be a state crime. But because it happened on federal property, it becomes a federal crime. There are also some specific crimes that are unique to federals, that are listed as federal crimes. Okay, counterfeiting, making fake money, is a federal crime because it's the U.S. government that has control over that. Transporting stolen property from one state to another is a federal crime. So that's jurisdiction of subject matter and location. Okay? So federal crimes is not that much more serious. Let's say, oh, you go into federal prison. Sometimes that's a little easier. And then state crimes, that's where most of the trials are held, are in state court. Okay. Okay. Handle that. So let's look at, now go ahead and pull up that other link that I have on there. So you're going to see basically the court system, the criminal court system in Texas. So pull up that link, but still listen to this lecture, okay? Give you a couple of seconds to do that, or just put this thing on pause. And let me up this a little bit. There we go. Okay, we're going to start at the bottom of that chart and work our way up. Bottom of the chart and work our way up. Okay, so this is a chart for Texas. This isn't the generalized chart that they have in the book. Pay no attention to that. On the left lower corner, we have what's called justice courts. That's the formal name of justice of the peace, is a justice court. And you see that it has basically small claims. It's a criminal misdemeanor where there's fine only. So if you were speeding, it could be in justice court depending on where it occurred. Okay. Magistrate functions, don't worry about that. Small claims, that would be civil part of it. We're not going to worry too much about that. But mainly that third bullet is what I want you to know. The justice court is justice of the peace court, and it's the lowest level crime where there's a fine only. That's called a Class C misdemeanor. Class C misdemeanor. Okay? If you look on the right-hand side of the lower chart, of the lowest box, you have municipal court. Basically the same thing, but just within the geographic area of a city, of a municipality. Okay. Criminal misdemeanors, where it's punishable by fine only. Also, cities have city ordinances, municipal ordinances. Dumping garbage, that kind of stuff. Burning garbage in your backyard, something like that. Civil jurisdiction, we're not going to worry about. Magistrate functions, we're not going to worry about. But just know those first 2 points. So, municipal court could have a traffic ticket if you're speeding within that municipality, within that city. So, if you go to Sugar Land and you're stopped by the Sugar Land police for speeding, then you go to the Sugar Land Municipal Court. Bel Air the same way, Houston the same way. Now, where does justice courts come in? They're basically county. Wherever there is not a municipality, then there's going to be a justice court. Now, justice court does have some overlapping jurisdictions within the city of Houston. Again, we're not going to get into all those technicalities. So let's say that you're driving along and you're going to drive up to Sam Houston State to visit some friends that are going to that university, and you're going to tell them, You should have came to the University of St. Thomas. You're a fool to come up to Sam Houston State. And they'll go, yeah, I know, it's pretty bad up here. And there's professors are pretty bad. And you say, well, come on down, transfer down. It can happen. So you're driving up there, and you don't notice that they changed the speed limit signs because of an upcoming construction zone. So lo and behold, a state trooper stops you and issues you a citation for going, 68 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. You would then have to contact the justice court, wherever that location would be. Let's say it's in Montgomery County, to either pay the fine, plead not guilty, go through all those other routines. Okay? So municipal court, justice courts, basically they hear the same type of cases, the lowest level misdemeanors, Class C misdemeanors. The only difference is where the crime was committed. Did it commit in the city, or did it commit in a county area? Municipal court could also be the same. Let's say you're up in Dallas and you get a speeding ticket. Then again, you would have to contact the Dallas court. As we said, that the trial will have, if you even want a trial, would happen where the crime was committed, not where the person lives. Okay? All right. Next level up are county courts. County courts will hear the rest of the misdemeanors where there could be someone going to jail. As we said several chapters earlier, a misdemeanor is a lower type of crime, punishable by going to jail, to county jail, for up to 1 year. Okay? So they have three different breakdowns here. We're not going to worry about all those breakdowns, or you're not going to have to worry about memorizing a lot of this probate and that kind of stuff. Civil actions, don't worry about that. But for criminal actions, I want you to know that county courts hear the Class A and Class B misdemeanors. County, within the county that it serves. The crime committed within that county. So a county could be Harris County, it could be Fort Bend County, it could be Montgomery County, depending on where the crime occurred. Okay. In some locations, it will hear juvenile cases. In large municipalities, we have a separate court system for the juvenile cases. So don't worry too much about that. Okay. So a lot of these things that they have as bullets in here, I don't want you to necessarily memorize, but I do want you to know how the levels go. Okay. Okay. Let's see. So the next one up there is a district court. And district courts in Texas will hear all felony cases. Felony cases are the serious ones, 1 year or greater in a state prison, up to and including life and capital punishment, death. Just as a reminder, what we just talked about, the death penalty, is that the last summer, or summer of 2019, the Pope Francis came out and basically says that the Catholic Church will no longer not oppose capital punishment, but basically opposes capital punishment. Okay. So, district courts are going to have trials. And we'll talk about trials a little bit later on. County courts will have trials. And going down to your justice courts and your municipal courts, they can also have trials. If you get a speeding ticket, you can insist on a jury trial. Now, the chances of you winning that trial will be pretty slim. But again, in justice court or municipal court, you can represent yourself. Actually, in any court you can, but it's a little more difficult at the upper levels. And you can testify and you can go through the whole thing. Most of the time there's plea bargainings, or just pay the fine, do your defensive driving, we'll wipe the record clean. Okay, that kind of stuff. So those are the 4 trial courts. 4 trial courts. Now, let's say that a person goes to district court, is accused of a felony, is accused of armed robbery, went into a convenience store late at night, pulled a gun, took the money, ran out. They got video of the guy. Kind of hard to see because he's got, a hoodie on and that kind of stuff, but, pretty easy to kind of see. Maybe touch the countertop, so they get some fingerprints there. Maybe the person's committed the crime before, so those fingerprints come up. They can see that those fingerprints, based on the video camera, are made from him at that time of the robbery. You can't say that he was in the store a couple hours earlier and touched it. Okay. He's found guilty, but he feels he wasn't given a fair trial. He can appeal the case. And the appeal case, you appeal a case based on what areas of the Texas state constitution have been violated. Okay. Not all cases go to appeal, and not all appeals are won. And we'll talk about a little bit on the appeal and the trial difference here in just a little bit. Then the last one will go to the very top. Do not pay any attention to the Supreme Court of Texas. Do not pay attention to the Supreme Court of Texas, because it only hears civil cases. It only hears civil cases. The top court there on the right, the Court of Criminal Appeals, that's the final step for appeals for criminal cases in Texas. Okay? All right. So we have trials, kind of like what you see on TV with the justice court, if so chose, municipal court, if so chose, county court, yeah, you're going to have trials. District court, definitely, yeah. All those have trials. If something occurs, let's say that a person is in district court accused of the robbery, and his attorney is always falling asleep during the trial. Well, he can appeal that he didn't get proper counsel. Okay. All right. So you can either stay on that site, or you can come back and watch me, whatever you want to do. But that handles all those courts. Very important to know and to have this chart available for you on other tests or the midterms. Okay? Okay. So, as I said, do not pay attention to the state system in the book. Now, let's talk about federal courts, and they're on page 201. And see, I got a line drawn down here. So everything over here, they're talking about state courts. We've already done that. But this stuff here, from here over, talks about the federal courts. Okay. And really, I don't like this chart that much either, but it kind of shows it. The lowest level federal court for criminal matters, it's not even listed on this chart. It's called Magistrates Court. Magistrates Court. So write that down. Magistrates Court. And they basically hear misdemeanors that occurred on federal property, or misdemeanors of of federal crimes. Okay, magistrates court. The next one up is federal district court. They will hear felonies. The next step up is U.S. Courts of Appeal. They'll hear the appeals just like our Court of Appeals. They'll hear the appeals from the federal trial courts. And then if you look back at that chart, it has the U.S. Supreme Court, and it can hear appeals from either state or federal courts. But the chance of a case ending up in the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, is very, very rare. They only choose certain cases. We'll talk about them later on. Remember, that's U.S. Supreme Court will hear criminal cases on appeal. Texas Supreme Court hears only civil cases. Okay? All right. So let me see where I am. I'm kind of mixed up my papers here a little bit. There we go. Okay. Yeah, on page 203, it talks a little bit about magistrates court. But it refers to them as in state courts, which is, I don't know why they do it that way. Okay, so that covers a lot of that area that I want you to know. Let's go over to page 209. 209, selection of judges. In Texas, a judge gets his or her job through the election process. So coming up on November 3rd, and we're all hear about the presidential election, judges will also be running for office. Okay. One of the assignments I'm going to give you is to review the judge. Number one, find out find out where you would vote. Would it be Harris County? Would it be what area Harris County? And find out what judges are running for office. That'll be fun. But judges in Texas are elected. Now, if a judge either resigns or dies in office, then the next person is appointed. And then that person has to run for office. Okay. Okay. We, in our court systems and practices, once life gets back to normal, we always take a field trip to the Harris County District Court, and you guys get to view a criminal trial. There, a lot of times, the judge will come and talk to the class, which is pretty cool. So you'd ask them, okay, so what's it like to be a judge? Okay. Over on page 211, there's what's called the courtroom work group. Now, and it says it very good there in the book. It's not like on TV where the prosecutor and defense attorney are constantly fighting back and forth, and there's just all this being obnoxious to each other. Actually, the courtroom is very professional, and the judge ensures that it stays very professional. You will see some arguing between the prosecution and the defense attorney, but not to where it's shown on TV. Like, that's, again, exaggerated. But in the courtroom work group, you have different people: the judge, the prosecutor, the defense attorney, the bailiff, who has security, the court clerk, who records everything, the who takes care of all the, the court clerk takes care of all the paperwork. And there is a lot of paperwork in court. So imagine if you were a defense attorney like they have on TV, that is just, a swaggerly kind of person, and Oh, I got to get this done, and this court doesn't know this. Hey, get this done. And then you have all this paperwork that has to be done by a court clerk. And the defense attorney insulted the court clerk. What's taken so long? Where do you think that court clerk's going to put all that paperwork? At the bottom of the stack, and make the defense attorney wait. Okay? So a lot of work and pull in there. Everybody is professional to each other. Everyone knows they need to cooperate with each other because everyone has certain powers. The court reporter is the one that records everything, kind of like, again, what you see on TV. They record everything that is said. And oftentimes in the court, they will have to reread what is said when there's been a dispute on that. Okay. All right. Then this chapter talks a little bit about the prosecutor. Prosecutor is paid by the government. Local prosecutor has to make sure that he has a duty of fairness. It's not get a conviction at any cost, even if they know the person's innocent. But there has to be a fairness. The Brady rule is important to know. Basically, any information that the prosecution has, they have to show the defense attorney before trial. And it can be damaging information to the defense, or it could be information that might help clear the defense. Okay. All right. Of course, the victims will want the individual prosecuted, but not have to want to go to trial to face the victim. And so it's the prosecutor's job to work with the victim to let them know what the trial is going to be like. How is it going to be up there in the witness stand giving testimony? And they'll go over what questions will probably be asked before the trial. So there's no surprises, to try to bring the victim a little bit more at ease. Okay. Talks a little bit about the defense attorney. They defend the guilty, even though they know the person is guilty. The person may have admitted to them, yeah, I committed the crime, but I don't want to go to jail for it. It's the responsibility of the defense attorney to do their best job on getting them found innocent. Now, different types of defense attorneys listed here. We've got a public defender. That's where they get basically the free attorney. In Houston, it's basically an assigned counsel. And then also there is the private attorney or the paid attorney. You look online and you find criminal attorneys that will be willing to represent you for a fee. And usually the fee is quite high. One of the things on drunk driving, the DWI or the DUI, you look at the state's punishment. The maximum fine is for first offense is $2,000 and 7 days in jail. And you say, gee, that's $2,000. That's pretty bad. That's nothing. If you get a defense attorney, he'll throw on another $5,000 to $10,000 to represent you. And then if you are found guilty or you plead guilty, then you have probation costs. So much you have to pay per month until you get off of probation. You have to pay for the little breath analyzer if they put one of those in your cars. So a DWI conviction, even though in the law it says maximum fine's $2,000, it can cost people anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000, because then you also have your insurance. You go into an assigned risk pool, which your insurance rates are very, very high then. So again, don't be foolish. Be careful. All right. Talks a little bit about attorney-client privilege. That's one of the areas which are considered sacred. When a client tells their attorney anything about the crime, the attorney cannot go and say, hey, this guy really did it. That's not allowed. That's unethical. Now, the only time an attorney could talk about a crime would be a future one. So let's say that I'm the bad guy and I tell my attorney, yes, I killed this one student because I did not like this one student. And I've got 3 more students, this one, and this one, that I'm going to kill because I can't stand them either. That attorney could then tell the police and the prosecutor of my plans on killing the other 3 because I'm out on bail. Because remember, I'm the honest person, based on my age and all and experience. So then they could, revoke my bail there, and then I sit in jail. So attorney-client privilege. The attorney cannot go and tell anyone things that are said except for any type of future crimes. The other types of privileges are marital, husband and wife. Okay. So if my wife tells me that, she killed the neighbors, I can't be forced to testify against her. Now, I could if I wanted to, but the government couldn't force me to say it. The also is the priest penitent. Person goes to confession, says, I killed that person next to me. The priest cannot go and tell or even testify in court. That's what they heard in confession. Okay. All right. There is no privilege of parent-child. So the parent, if they hear the child committed the crime, could turn them in, or the child could turn the parent in. And once in a while that happens, not too often. Okay, so that handles Chapter 8. We're going to stop there, and that's it.